Distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good day. The UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on December 10, 1948, and 2 years later declared December 10th the Human Rights Day. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is based upon human liberty and equality, and the first document in history that details 30 fundamental human rights. It is also the most widely translated document, available in more than 500 languages. Human rights is a universal value that has been recognized as the foundation of freedom, justice, peace, and security, as well as of the sustainable development of human society. Inspired by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations adopted the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1966. To further clarify and act upon the spirit of human rights, the two covenants and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights combined into the International Bill of Human Rights, the most important human rights bill in the world, and the very foundation of international human rights law. On this important day, we are once again reminded that every human being is endowed with fundamental human rights. No person or public power should infringe or deprive others of their basic human rights. These rights should be respected, protected, and jointly defended. American human rights activist Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Mr. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, said human rights violations harm us all. Only when human rights are recognized and honored will peace be achieved. Respect for human rights is the common linkage between democratic nations. However, fundamental human rights are violated in many parts of the world. Human rights defenders, following the calling of conscience, are taking to the street and demanding that public authorities respect and protect citizens' civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. The calling of human rights is heard. Everyone is urged to take immediate action for the future of their country. Human rights are at the core of 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable development cannot be achieved without human dignity. We have to create equal opportunities in order to achieve sustainable goals. We are determined to take actions to protect human rights and remain united as we recover from the pandemic and go beyond into a brighter future. The United Nations is calling on world citizens to stand up for human rights and put human rights in the center of the post-pandemic world, urging social reforms to create an international community built upon freedom and fearlessness with more inclusiveness, resilience, and equality. The world is now full of uncertainties and challenges. Global problems such as war, environmental changes, extreme climate patterns, excessive exploitations of resources, and unequal distribution have provoked the COVID-19 pandemic and Mother Nature to fight back, causing unpredictable and devastating disasters for mankind. In the chaos, human rights are under immediate threat from special interests and corrupt government bureaucracy. The chaos stems from the same root. Michelle Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said there is a vaccine to hunger, poverty, inequality, and possibly, if it is taken seriously, to climate change, as well as to many of other ills that face humanity. The name of that vaccine is human rights. We should properly apply the human rights vaccine to help us build more resilient, prosperous, and inclusive societies. Our common humanity is rooted in human rights, equality, justice, and freedom. These core values need to be reiterated, heard, put into practice. Then the human society will be able to avoid violence and achieve stability and peace. Under the doctrine of cause and effect, just like the rule of heaven and earth, wrongdoers will eventually bear the consequence. To find solutions, it is necessary to go back to the root cause of the problem and change the root cause. Heart is the root cause of our problems. Selfishness causes people to forget the respect between people. True human rights attainment requires basic respect among people. There will be no peace, equality, democracy, and fraternity with no human rights. Human rights comes from conscience. Conscience is the origin of all virtues. Compassion is the footing of morality. Human rights is based upon conscience and love. Humanity is connected with compassion. French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau said a principle of justice and virtue exists in the depth of soul. This is conscience. In recognition that conscience is the key to change the world, the UN General Assembly declared April 5th the International Day of Conscience in 2019. In recognition that love and peace is the most important foundation for sustainable development and mankind's common well-beings. The Federation of World Peace and Love promoted the declaration of International Day of Conscience to urge people to seek win-win solutions with peace and harmony in order to solve national and international crises. All world citizens are encouraged to nurture love in their hearts, to strike a balance in the pursuit of economic, social, cultural, spiritual, technological, and educational development. Conscience is the most needed universal vaccine. On Human Rights Day, we look forward to working with states, organizations, and world citizens to protect, promote, and practice human rights as we meet challenges with creative and effective solutions. On the path to securing universal human rights, we need to have faith, merit, strength, and courage to overcome obstacles as we work hand in hand with like-minded, and to continue the work of securing a human rights-friendly environment. We need to focus on the collective well-being inherent to our conscience. Let's create sustainability and a united world with human rights, dignity, peace, equality, freedom, stability, and happiness. May we all have peace and health. May the world have prosperity and harmony.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kenny. Today, December 10th, is also the UN Human Rights Day. I would like to invite you to learn more about how to protect our human rights by using some real example happened in Taiwan. Before we get into those examples, let me also invite you to watch a video from UN for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was prepared in 2018 to celebrate the 7th anniversary of that declaration. While the UN Human Rights Commission office has spent 3 years after the World War II to develop the charters and the contents. So let's welcome the video.
Where, after all, do universal human rights begin?
After World War II, it was clear that the horrors of the war should never be allowed to occur again. Founded in 1945, the United Nations sought to prevent future atrocities by affirming, in its foundational charter, faith in fundamental human rights, the dignity and worth of the human person, and a commitment to promote better standards of life in larger freedom. In the years that followed, member states of the United Nations strived to develop the human rights provisions of the Charter and capture them in a single document. It took 3 years to agree on a common vision. On the 10th of December, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations.
Still, it is the first step in a great evolutionary process. It is the first occasion on which the organised community of nations has made a declaration of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and it has the authority of the body of opinion of the United Nations as a whole. And millions of people, men and women and children all over the world, will turn for hope and guidance and inspiration to this document.
While history alone can determine the historic significance of an event, it is safe to say that the declaration before us may be destined to occupy an honorable place in the procession of positive landmarks in human history.
The Declaration consists of a preamble and 30 articles, with Article 1 powerfully proclaiming that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. No discrimination, right to life, liberty and security, no slavery, no torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, equal protection of the law, no arbitrary arrest, detention or exile, fair and public hearing, no arbitrary interference with privacy, right to freedom of movement, right to seek and enjoy asylum, right to a nationality, right to marry and to found a family, right to property, freedom of thought, conscience and religion, freedom of opinion and expression, freedom of peaceful assembly and association, right to take part in government, right to work, right to rest and leisure, right to food, clothing, housing, medical care and social services, right to education, right to participate in cultural life.
These human rights are not country-specific. They are not a reward for good behavior or particular to a certain era or social group. They are the rights of people of every color, from every race and ethnic group, whether or not they have disabilities, citizens or migrants, no matter their sex, their class, their caste, their creed, their age, or sexual orientation.
The Declaration has generated action for human rights protection in many ways. It has inspired hundreds of human rights instruments that together constitute international human rights law and a number of international bodies and mechanisms for human rights protection. The principles of the Declaration have supported the decolonization struggle and have been enshrined in the constitutions of the newly established countries which have joined the United Nations. The Declaration has inspired national and regional human rights protection systems, including legislation and institutions. And it continues to guide the work of human rights defenders and advocates worldwide. Today, the Declaration is available in more than 500 languages and dialects, and it has obtained the Guinness World Record for the most translated document in the world. The 10th of December, the day on which the Declaration was adopted, is celebrated each year as Human Rights Day. The Declaration emphasizes the relevance of human rights in our daily lives.
Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world.
Thanks for watching. Through the video, we can see that the chapter of the human rights is composed of 30 articles. The chapter and articles have now been constitutionalized into many country and the regional legal systems and framework to ensure all kinds of human rights listed in the articles can be protected. Like what Article 1 mentioned, all human beings are born and equal in dignity and rights. Article 3 for the right to life, liberty, and security. Article 17 for the right to the property. Article 18 for the right to the freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religion. And also Article 27 for the right to freely to participate in the cultural life of the community. With that, here I would like to call for your attention on the Taijimen Task Force case. This case has went through 3 judicial trials and have concluded no fraud, no violation of any tax rules, and no tax applications. However, the Tax Bureau continues issuing illegal tax bills and even auction Taijimen's sacred land. So from the UN Human Rights Chapter perspective, the Taiwan Tax Bureau did violate many articles under the UN Human Rights Charter. Now, let me invite Ryder, a middle school student, to share his learning from Tajimen and his worries and wishes on the Tajimen case. Now let's welcome Ryder.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryder. I am a middle school student. I am also Tajimen dizi. I am very happy to share my views with you today. December 10th is named as International Human Rights Day by the United Nations. The purpose is to encourage people to protect their own human rights. I joined Taijimen with my mother when I was 6 years old. I like to go to Tajimen very much because I can exercise and play with many kids. I don't remember when I started to protest with my mother. We went to protest in front of the president's office. We protested that the government was unfair to us. At first, I didn't understand why we had to protest in front of the president's office and still down the road. I felt a little embarrassed. Later, I listened to many experts and scholars in front of the president's office. I understood a little bit. At that time, many police officers were so close to us, and I felt a little scared. So I asked my mother why we came here. My mother said that because the government said that Taijimen did not pay taxes. However, Taijimen is a martial arts and spiritual group that is tax-free by law. We go to Taijimen every week and we are very happy there. We sing and dance, and my shifu teach me a lot of principles of life. My shifu said that we should study just like playing games. When I follow on the way as what shifu told me, I found that I like to learn new things. Shifu said that we should study hard when you are studying. When you are playing, just playing happily. We should concentrate to the things that we are doing, move fast without delay. I really stand up this point of view. Taijimen has went to 3 judicial trials and concluded in 2007 that Taijimen is innocent, no fraud, and no tax obligations. However, I don't know why the government threw away the secret land of Taijimen, but I really see that Taijimen is a good place with good people. They are nice and kind, and no one did bad things. We have conscience, love, and peace. The government should understand they are wrong. They have to change. I am a student. I am young, but I have a judgment with my conscience. I hope our government officers have conscience too, and something right. Thank you.
Thanks for Ryder's sharing. Hope Ryder's simple wish can come true soon, and he can continue practicing Taijimen happily with his mother at Tajimen. Now, let's invite our second speaker, Susie. Susie is a young mother and has a little boy. Susie also practiced Qigong with her family when she was small. However, why she stand up and protest with her little boy in front of the presidential house? Let's learn what Susie says. Please.
Hi everyone, my name is Susie. When I was 5 years old, I came to Taijimen with my parents. I like this place very much. Everyone treats me very well. My shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, taught me how to be a good person and taught me a good way to study. Now I'm married and have my own child. When the government did adjust things to Taijimen, we decided to go to the presidential office to protest. Although my child was still a baby boy, I took him to participate in the protest. My son was very cooperative and did not cry or make trouble. Sometimes I have to go to work and cannot participate in the protest. My child also attended with my parents. I hope my son knows how to fight for his human rights and will be brave afterwards. I hope when he grows up, he can always do the right thing. Everyone has conscience. People are not saints and always make mistakes. However, admitting mistake requires courage. I think admitting mistake is the supreme virtue. When you find something wrong and correct immediately, it's a kind of relief. The Tajimen case happened on December 19, 1996. Because of the prosecutor's slander and the persecution, it has troubled Tajimen for more than 25 years. In 2007, the Supreme Court finally ruled that Tajimen did not commit a crime or owe tax. However, the IRS continued to issue illegal tax bills to Tajimen, completely ignoring the Supreme Court's final trial. Such unreasonable behavior did not care about the civilians seriously. When the whole world emphasized democracy and the human rights, the United Nations even set December 10 as an International Human Rights Day, and Taiwan's Internal Revenue Service officials' wrong behavior was even more ironic. IRS officials should bravely admit their mistakes. Therefore, I hope that the government officials who made mistakes will immediately stop issuing illegal tax bills to Tajimen and return the sacred land of Tajimen. With that, Tajimen can continue promoting love, peace, and human rights in Taiwan and throughout the world. Thank you.
Thanks for Susie's sharing. It's really sad that Susie had to stand up to protest in order to protect her human rights from the Tajimen tax case. Hope the senior government officers can hear her voices and revoke the Tajimen case immediately. Last but not the least, let's welcome Tina, the administrative manager, to share her perspective on the Tajimen case. Let's welcome Tina.
Ladies and gentlemen, December 10th is the International Human Rights Day. It's a festival set by the General Assembly of UN to commemorate the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on December 10, 1948. It encourages people in the world to fight for freedom and democracy. Taijimen has persisted in injustice for many years under the leader of Dr. Hong Daozi. He responded to government's injustice with love and conscience and justice. It has been internationally recognized for the effort to pursue human rights in a peace and rational manner. Tajimen proved that they are respectable and what they have been shouting for human rights is fully consistent with what International Human Rights Day is looking for today. The Tajimen case is a religious persecution caused by the government's administrative system infringing on a spiritual group with improper public power. This phenomenon appears in democratic Taiwan, which is quite ironic. The transitions of government's power between KMT and DPP parties have occurred over past 20 years, but the Taijimen case has not been revoked for over 25 years, which is very regrettable because Taijimen insists on its beliefs and Tajimen does not compromise with illegal IRS and continues promoting love, peace, and human rights in Taiwan and around the world. It has attracted international attention to Tajimen. Therefore, they came forward to support the well-known human rights magazine, Bitter Winter. Many leaders of international human rights groups praised Taijimen. They admired the persistence of Taijimen. They attended 16 international conferences and published more than 60 articles discussing Taijimen case, including the U.S. State Department last year. The Ministerial Conference for the Promotion of Religious Freedom was initiated by the surrounding meeting. The French non-governmental organization CAPLC also submitted a human rights report to the UN Human Rights Council, including the Taijimen case. Today is the International Human Rights Day. Everyone living in a free and democratic society can't be deprived of their basic human rights. This is also the universal value of the world today. If every civil servant in Taiwan can act with conscience, Taiwan will be healthy and people will be happy. I call for the high-level government to pay attention to the people and help solve the Tajimen case. This can convince the people that the government is really doing transformational justice and protecting human rights. This is my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks for Tina's sharing. You can tell that Taijimen is such a wonderful spiritual group that promotes love, peace, and human rights around the world through cultural performances and exchanges. Such a group should not encounter those unjust prosecutions and illegal tax bills for more than 25 years. And government should revoke and protect the taxpayers' human rights. Otherwise, the so-called transformational justice is just a joke, and nobody will believe it. Before we close today's Human Rights Forum, let me invite you to listen to a song of human rights for world citizens. And I hope to call for everybody's attention on human rights. Protecting human rights, and humans will be all right. Thank you for listening, and wish you all have a good day. Goodbye.